I noticed in like our relationship and even with like some of my friendships, still working on the family stuff, but there's a way where I'm able to hold more space for my messiness, like my internal experience. I have more space for it than before this practice. Like if I had messiness inside me, it was very like alarm bells was going off. And in this practice, because in relatefulness, like there is this like slowing down and like almost like this kind of back and forth, like I'm checking in with myself in real time as someone else is sharing. Like there's so much going on that I'm able to like notice when it goes and passes. And I'm like, oh, these things come and pass. And like these dynamics, I don't know, like I'm able to hold more space for my internal world. And that makes me like show up better in my relationships and for myself. And sometimes I share that external world out, and it's cool to see like if that lands. And sometimes I share it and it doesn't land, and that's also okay. Like, um, but it is really beautiful to then share that and then be met with somebody or be seen by somebody in that. And which brings to like the second part. Like it feels like that feels like number one, like almost like on this personal journey. And the second part is the connections. So it's like honestly, like all of y'all that are here, like I feel like I have like a unique connection with each and every one of you. And like as we both like all know, like there's more people that we have connections with from this. And especially moving from out of the state to Charlotte to have those connections. Like I think one time we like eye gazed with each other and that just kind of came out of someone like I think someone just had suggested it. I know who, but I don't want to say it on the Zoom because they're not here. Um, and it was just really special. Like these special just life moments things come out and the connections and the trips and stories that come. So
I love it. I feel that was really articulate. Like you articulated so much in that little moment, and it made me feel like proud of you. And also, there's a feeling of the relatefulness as a practice, and that's why I go because I need to practice. Um, and yeah, I feel chills now on my arm, and yeah, it's something I wanted to do was to improve relationships. And I find as we're together and connecting and, being our hot, what'd you say, messy self? I love that. It makes me realize, like, oh, I can improve the relationship I have with myself and others. And it's not always about better or like a judgment that something's not right. It's just practicing makes, there's just like I don't even know the word, but there's it's not even an outcome, but just there's a feeling when you leave that you just feel better than when you came. And I don't know how to put that into words other than the practice makes me feel better.
I relate a lot to that, Becky. The first thing that was coming to mind for me is that I often feel like a spiritual sort of flow or peace that I may not get through meditation and other things. It's almost like another dimension, um, a deep, and there's a heartfulness that for me wakes up by hearing from other people, but also hearing from myself in a more truthful way. I've really taken to heart this idea of how connected love and truth are, and that if I limit my truth, I limit my love. Um, so for me, there's like a lot of, in some ways, connecting, like I've said this before, it's like connecting what it's like to be me when I'm alone with what it's like to be me when I'm with other people. And like the difference starts to feel very minimal. I mean, like there still is a different power with people, but it's almost like I'm bringing more of my personal, as we say, authentic self to to others, even if that doesn't necessarily mean sharing a huge amount, or sometimes it does mean sharing a whole lot. It's just this sort of sense of like um, less filtering, more openness, and just connecting to this commonality that we have as human beings and the friendships, like who said it? Emily, I think. Yeah, just the relationships. Ironically, yeah, surprisingly, actually, the relationships are actually what's the richest. Maybe that shouldn't be a surprise, but like yeah, skill building at some level, and to me, it's really like it's like training and being better at loving, and I can't think of anything that's more important than that, and being loved.
I felt like you put that really well, and I relate to different. I really felt what each person shared, different aspects of it, like really resonating with me. I think originally, like I came, it was like half personal and half like professional development. That was the idea. I was like, I'm starting out my counseling career and I kind of want to develop some of these skills and also it'll be good for me. But as I've done it more, it's the impact of it is really I go for me and what it does for me and my connection with other people. And I have found it to be a huge resource. Um, and that connection, it's like I've gotten the kind of connection at Relateful Gathering that I haven't gotten many other places or many other times in my life where it's very meaningful because it's authentic and real and in the moment. And there's an aspect of vulnerability to it. And it's like we need that. Like I need that in my life to feel whole and to feel like well. And it's become a really meaningful place for me to go, those relationships. I just find them really sustaining and that connection is really sustaining. And it's sort of learning how to, for me, how to let that in more and like working with my some of my resistances to it. Um, because there's times where I've kept it away and it's sort of like me learning how to let that be the connection and the relationship be what it is. Um, and yeah, that's what it is for me.
As each person speaks, it's like I drop a layer deeper into like my feel it more in my body, being with like oh I care about y'all as people, and there's this really cool space that is supporting us. Like one thing I'm continually surprised by going is how supportive the space feels for inviting more full aliveness in me. And there's a way like I care so much about I the like I don't want my life to be like a waiting, like, oh, I can be alive once I get there in that context, or I can like, but for now I just gotta hang on. But like there's some way I want to, sometimes there is tolerating in my life like different parts, but uh I don't want that if I don't need to do that. Like, so that there's this like surprise that I have when I go to relateful gatherings of how inviting the context is for me, of like knowing, oh, I don't need to fight as much resistance here to showing up in full aliveness because kind of that's what we're here for. Like, it's not like an uphill battle of like navigating all this other people not liking my expression maybe, or people being like, why is James rolling on the floor right now? That's not very, you know, professional conduct. I'm like, yo, that's what this is. Like, somehow it's easier for me to not take people's reactions as personal. Um, and then it's pretty cool too. Like, most fears I have about people negatively reacting just don't happen. I've like rolled on the floor at many relateful gatherings, and I don't think I've ever had someone like, people are like, "Oh, that was cool." Well, okay. Hmm.
What Relateful offered was a prompt to be myself. Like this is a space where you can be yourself. And you guys are welcoming me to look at that, but I'm not alone when I look at it. So it's less scary. When the monster is out, there's like 12 other people in the room to um, hold that space with me. So it's less scary. And so I let the monster out and I named the monster. This is fear, and this is anxiety, and this is worry. And then so that's what's alive for me. And I'm with that emotion. And it wasn't a big deal. It takes maybe like half an hour for me to be able to be with it. But that time is shortening as I go to relate for more. Sometimes I could let that go through me and process in, let's say, 10 minutes. It went from a couple days to 10 minutes. So I know now I have a tool to be like feel what I'm actually feeling instead of suppressing it. And it's very effective. And once I am allowing myself to feel those things, I'm actually allowing myself to be a lot other things. When I feel those things, I feel all the other parts of me as well. So that makes me more alive. And if I'm not really authentically me, how am I connecting with other people? Um, I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'm fully there yet. I'm still at the baby step of, experiencing what it's like to be fully me and allowing myself to be that. It takes a lot of practice. So that's my why.
I love seeing like your expression when you said like letting in like these other parts of you too, like how opening up about that, like see, I don't know, it just makes me reflect on the different times I've seen you in the practice and it does feel like an honor when you show like all the different parts or like what you are willing to show and um yeah, I don't know, I have a lot of love and gratitude for how you show up in that space. I remember when you first came, I was like, oh, she must do this all the time. So yeah. Yeah, I know I was surprised to learn that. Yeah.
One of the insights that I've gotten from Grateful Gathering is actually this enhanced ability to be more intimate with everybody, including myself. Through practice of relatefulness, I find that I'm paying more attention to body language, for example, or what's not being said, or when it's said, or like what tone of voice it's said in. And when I'm really like dialed in with the other person, it's not normal, you know, uh, what is it called? It's not a social norm to ask people about their body language. It's not. It's not usual. But in a relationship, I think it's fair game. And I think it's elevated my ability to be able to maybe check in with a potential future partner. That if and when I do go into another relationship, I feel more equipped. I feel like I'm more ready to be able to be present with them in a way that I haven't been before. So I find like that's one of the bigger things that I'm getting from it. Not that that's necessarily intent, but that's something that's just coming. Coming from the practice of mindfulness and coming from years of experience of practicing being in the present moment and training myself to really be present. This is really for anybody who's a meditator who's maybe coming in who's newer. It really elevates the mindfulness practice to a whole other level. At least that's my experience, because it's normal to be present with myself, but when you're able to kind of like um, piggyback off of everybody in the group, and everybody is kind of anchoring themselves in the present moment, usually and somehow. Not always, but like, generally speaking, I would say that's at least my perspective. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but my perspective is that one of the aims of relatefulness is to be fully present and to be able to use the other person's present moment experience to anchor myself in the present moment and vice versa. Like really trying to dial into like what is it that I'm feeling right now, and by sharing what I'm experiencing in this moment, then somebody else might identify, and that might trigger something in somebody else in the present moment. And collectively, we are like maintaining this hold on the present moment together, which is quite unique and I've never experienced anywhere else.